Well, welcome to Christ Table. So glad that you are here with us today as we are continuing through our Bible study on Be You, which is walking through the Enneagram personality types that were a part of Bible characters. And so it's been a real fun study so far. Last week we looked at type 8, the Challenger, and this week we look at type 9, the Peacemaker. All of this brought to you courtesy of Christ Table. If you'd like to find out more about us, especially I want to encourage you to go to that website right there and sign up for our email list. You can find out everything about us by going there, by signing up for the email list. You'll get all the information that I'm going to give to you here, so you don't have to write anything down. If you'd like to be a part of this study, then head over to go.christtable.today/BU. There you're going to find a couple of Enneagram personality tests that you can take on your own. You're also going to find a link to the book that we are reading alongside of this to help us understand the Enneagram more. And most appropriately, you're going to find the schedule and all the readings for this Bible study so that you can keep up with us on this journey through all of these incredible Bible characters. Now, a couple of things that I want to tell you about that you have access to in addition to this Bible study. The first one is we do a book study, a book club on this book is the one that we're using right now by Ian Crone, The Road Back to You. We are going to be in chapters 3 and 4. And so if you'd love to join us, we would love for you to join us in that. Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can simply log on to go.christtable.today/discuss, and we'll be there waiting to have a conversation this Wednesday night about chapters 3 and 4. The other thing, if you are in South Florida or local to South Florida, I want to encourage you to come to our next in-person gathering. Low key, gonna have a meal. Actually, it's gonna be outside right here at the Young Cabin. And that will be this coming Sunday, May the 22nd at 11 a.m. And if you'd like information about that, the address and all those things, all that you need to do is go to www.christtable.today and get on the email list, and then we'll send that out by email a couple of times this week, probably. And we'll look forward to having you there. Well, let's dig in. As we come to personality types, what we have agreed to do is look through 36 characters in the Bible and try to look at them not just from a spiritual lens, but try to look at them from a personality lens to try to understand a little bit more about their strengths, about their weaknesses, their motivations, what makes them tick. And what we're learning is they're a lot like us. They struggle with the same things that we struggle with. They have worries, the same worries oftentimes that we worry. The things that we like about ourselves, oftentimes we're seeing the same things in them. Now, last week we talked about type 8 in the Enneagram, which if you have no idea what those numbers are or what the Enneagram is, that's okay. This Bible study it's not a requirement for this, but the personality type that we talked about last week was the Challenger personality type. It's the person who fights boldly for injustice. They are the natural advocates in the world. They are the folks who are out there on the front lines of protesting injustices and concerns. They're the first people who are boldly going to confront confidently. They're going to say what everybody else wants to say, but doesn't really have the guts to say it. That was the personality type that we talked about last week. This week, we have the opportunity to talk about the Peacemaker personality type, and we're going to get there through looking at 4 different individuals from the Bible. And the first one we're going to look at is Abraham. His story is in a large portion of the book of Genesis, but we're going to look at one particular interaction in Genesis chapter 18, verses 16 through 33. And I want to encourage you, we're not going to read it all today together. I want to encourage you to read the entire passage. You might even want to keep going because it's really just the beginning of the story that we get to here. So what is this Peacemaker, what we've referred to in the Enneagram as a type 9 personality? Well, there are some things that are specific to this personality type, and maybe you'll recognize yourself in it or somebody else. The basic desire for somebody who has this Peacemaker personality is to have peace of mind and to bring harmony between people. They don't like conflict or disconnection or people to be at odds against each other, and that really is their biggest fear in life, is being disconnected from other people or having tension with others. And maybe that's tension between themselves, and somebody else, or sometimes it is tension between other people who they love. They just don't like it. Now, we also are attaching to this a deadly sin, and we won't get to this one much today, but we will by the time we get through this week, is laziness. The people who are peacemakers also tend to have an issue with motivation, with being lazy. You might be a 9 if many or all of these words describe you: agreeable, complacent, easygoing, patient, forgetful, open-minded, indecisive, accepting, stubborn, and passive-aggressive. Now, one of the interesting things about this list is there are some opposites on this list, which is the real kind of frustration for a 9 sometimes, is they tend to look like all of the other personality types at any given moment, depending on what the situation faces. A peacemaker is a mediator, and so that person tends to have to become a different type of person in order to help those around them get to a place of peace. And so it's a bit of a chameleon personality in a sense, where they can have a hard time knowing exactly what their personality type is because they have pieces of all of the personality types in them. So as we come to this story of Genesis chapter 16 and where we are with Abraham today, one of the things that I think is incredible about this story that we're looking at is and I said Genesis 16 and Genesis 18. One of the things that I love about this is the interaction between this peacemaker and God. Because sometimes we think of a peacemaker as being someone who doesn't enjoy conflict, but that's not necessarily true. It's just that they avoid conflict unless absolutely necessary. But a peacemaker who is a healthy personality is willing to actually engage in conflict if there will be peace on the other side of that conflict. So we're jumping into the story a little later than where we started, so I hope you're going to read the whole thing on your own in your own Bible. So the Lord told Abraham, "I have heard a great outcry from Sodom and Gomorrah because their sin is so flagrant. I'm going to come down to see if their actions are as wicked as I have heard. If not, I want to know." Now, the first thing that I want to point out here is traditionally in some quarters of the church, the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah has been homosexuality. That is not true in any way, shape, or form. In fact, the Bible actually multiple places declares specifically what the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah is, and it's not that. So let's get that out of the way here. But Sodom and Gomorrah was a inhospitable place. They treated people terribly there, and also we know that Abraham's nephew Lot is living there in the city. So Abraham has a vested interest in these cities and what happens to them. For 9, remember, their ultimate goal here is to be at peace and to create healthy spaces for people to survive and ultimately to thrive. And this is the real beauty of folks who have this personality type, is they are looking out for others. They're wanting others to be happy. When others are happy and at peace, then they are happy and at peace as well. So this is Abram's goal, for his nephew, obviously, to be at peace in the place where he lives. So the other men who are there in this moment turn around and head towards Sodom, but the Lord remains with Abraham for a while. So Abraham approaches him, knowing that God is going to Sodom to see what the story is, and if it's not good there, it's not going to be good for the city. Abraham says, "Will you sweep away both the righteous and the wicked? Suppose you find 50 people there, living in the city. Will you still sweep it away and not spare it for their sakes? Surely you wouldn't do such a thing, destroying the righteous along with the wicked. Why, you would be treating the righteous and the wicked exactly the same. Surely you wouldn't do that." He's talking to God here. I love this, that Abraham is talking to God here, and he's essentially saying, if you find 50 people there, you're not going to destroy this city, right? I mean, you're not going to make other people suffer for the sins of the problem ones, right? Look at what he's doing here. Abraham is seeking to resolve conflict and to find common ground when others don't see it. Abraham is essentially saying, God, we can resolve this in some other way. This isn't the right path to go. And so he's trying to help God see, I think, that there may be other options here, which is stinking awesome. I love it. Should not the judge of all the earth do what is right? Is there a more manipulative line in the Bible? I'm not sure if there is. But Abraham talking to God, should not the judge of all of the earth do what is right? Abraham's essentially implying that God is not acting rightly or justly. And Abraham is using this as leverage in order to, I think, protect his family. The Lord replies, all right. If I find 50 righteous people in Sodom, I will spare the entire city for their sake. And Abraham pauses. There aren't 50 people in Lot's household, even if you count his wife and you count his daughters and you count their servants and the people who are there tending the flocks and those things. There aren't 50 people in Abraham's family that lives there. So Abraham speaks again. Since I've begun, let me speak further, my Lord. Even though I am but dust and ashes, suppose there are 45 righteous people rather than 50. Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5? And the Lord said, I will not destroy it if I find 45 righteous people there. Then Abraham pressed his request further. Suppose there are only 40. This is starting to read like a Dr. Seuss story. Suppose there are only 40. And the Lord replied, I will not destroy it for the sake of the 40. Sam, I will not destroy that city, but I am. Please don't be angry, my Lord, Abraham pleaded. Let me speak. Suppose only 30 righteous people are found there. And the Lord replied, I won't destroy it if I find 30. Now, I think God knows what Abraham is doing here, but Abraham is arguing with God, bargaining with God. Abraham says, since I have dared to speak to the Lord, let me continue. Suppose there are only 20. And now he's getting in the neighborhood. And the Lord replied that I will not destroy it for the sake of 20. And finally, Abraham says, Lord, please don't be angry with me if I speak one more time. Suppose only 10 are found there. And the Lord replied, then I will not destroy it for the sake of the 10. And I love this, because what Abraham shows us is that oftentimes we have to boldly and passionately pursue the work of peacemaking. And Abraham does it in the most unlikely of places with the most unlikely of people, with God. And I think one of the great things about this passage is it helps us see that we should not be afraid to engage or to push back with God for peace. Peace in our lives, peace in our families, to boldly come before God and make our requests known. As the Bible says, this is Abraham boldly coming before God to make requests known. But peacemaking is such an important thing to do. And I think that the fact that Abraham goes so far as to do peacemaking work with God is an encouragement to us to recognize that there is no person, there is no place, there is no problem under which we should not be working to find peace and resolution of conflict inside. Christians, followers of Christ, should be peacemakers. It should be what we are known for. Now, I understand not everybody is type 9. There are 8 other personality types, and the 8 other personality types have great strengths, but this type of mediation and conflict resolution may not be in the wheelhouse of those, but that doesn't mean that we're off the hook from not being able to do it. Sometimes you got to bring in a peacemaker in order to help you make peace in conflict, and sometimes you got to be the peacemaker. Don't be afraid. When the Lord had finished his conversation with Abraham, he went on his way, and Abraham returned to his tent. And I love the story just kind of ends that way. They both just kind of like take a breath and walk away. So maybe you are a peacemaker, or maybe you know a peacemaker. Well, this week, over the next few days, we're going to be talking about you, or about that person that you know. We're going to try to make sure that you are a healthy peacemaker, or if you have somebody in your life who may be this peacemaking type personality, like in Abraham, we're going to help you see what a healthy one looks like and what an unhealthy one looks like, and how to get there. Why is that important? Well, because it makes all the difference in the world. At their best, nines are natural mediators. They see two sides to every story. They're able to put themselves in the shoes of the other person, and acting out of a true desire to restore peace and harmony without controlling others. Oftentimes, we try to make peace in order to control the outcomes of things. That's not where a true peacemaker's heart is. But it also has a shadow side. All of our personalities do. And at their worst, whenever they are not in a healthy place, under stress, nines can have a hard time being sure of themselves, making tough decisions, tending to merge their agenda with others in an attempt to avoid healthy conflict. The peacemaker, avoiding conflict. So where do we go from here? Well, I think in our own lives, what we can do is take a page from Abraham's story and recognize that God's goal, I think, for us is that we would be people of peace in a world of conflict. And we shouldn't be worried or fearful about confronting the brokenness in the world or in people, bringing peace to those conflicts, whether it's in our own lives or in the lives of others. May you be a person of peace, and may you identify people who are peacemakers, learn from them, and lean on them when necessary. Until tomorrow, happy reading.